Hello, everyone. I'm sorry about that. Hi, Nana. Hi, Matt. Hi, Sabrina. Hi, Rodney. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Richard. Hi, Glinda. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Randy. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Billy. How you guys doing tonight? Hopefully everyone is having a great night out there. I know a lot of stuff's been going on, but hopefully we can get it all under control here. It's craziness out there, though. Watching what Russia, of course, is saying and doing out there is not good whatsoever. Sad. It's a sad state of affairs here in the United States and what's happening abroad. Hi, Cindy. Hi, William. Hi, Eden. How you doing? Don't know what's up with my microphone, though, with my headset, though, because I cannot hear it. We'll find out. But lots going on out there. First, we're going to get into the EU. I don't know if anybody's realized what's happening, but the EU, of course, is leaning towards a ban of Russian oil completely and natural gas. That's the diplomacy, and the European Union is leaning towards the ban. Two EU diplomats said after talks between the European Commission and the EU members this weekend, the European Union has prepared a sixth package of sanctions against Russia in response to the invasion over the 2 months of Ukraine, of course, that Moscow is calling a specialist military operation. The package is expected to target Russian oil and Russian and Belarus banks, as well as more individuals and companies. This, of course, is coming up with concerns amongst shortages of fuel already happening. The Commission is coordinating with EU responses and held talks dubbed confidential with small groups of EU countries will aim to firm up its sanction plans in time for the meetings with the EU ambassadors on Brussels on Wednesday. The EU Energy Ministry is due to meet in the Belgian capital on Monday to discuss the issue. The EU diplomats said that the EU countries were able to end their use of oil before the end of 2022, but others, particularly more southern members, were concerned about the impacts on prices, which is a big concern for everyone. Germany, one of the biggest buyers of Russian oil, appeared to be willing to go along with the 2022 cutoff, the diplomat said, but countries including Austria, Hungary, and Italy and Slovakia had reservations. But since Austria and Hungary have both switched their tune, of course, the advisors on the ban of Russian oil imports need a few months to secure alternatives, but downwind period, it will be time to stop buying Russian oil, and they want to stop buying oil from Russia. The problem is the cost will, of course, be exorbitant. As Perkin said, Germany wants to ensure that refineries in the northeast Germany are operated by Russian state oil companies could be supplied with non-Russian oil brought by tankers to Rostock and in the Baltic Sea. He told the Financial Times that this is to allow this, the port of Rostock would have to be deepened and work done on the pipeline taking it to swindling. Of course, EU countries have proposed opting for a cap on prices they are willing to pay for oil, especially Russian oil. However, it would still force them to pay higher prices for supplies elsewhere. The problem is oil supplies are dwindling around the world. Of course, we'll get to North Korea's threat, but we're going to talk about North Korea's threat in a minute. You guys, I will point it out. Yeah, we are going to take phone calls tonight, Billy. 100% for sure. We are going to be taking calls tonight. The problem is I got to figure out what's wrong with my audio on my end. So just give me a minute. Find that out. But it's crazy what's happening around the globe right now, watching everything that's happening. Well, I do not know why I cannot hear my headphones. That is quite weird. I bet you I know why, though. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'll probably fix that problem real quick. Let's try it again. Nope, still can't hear it. I know you guys can hear it, but I can't. Oh, I guess we're not going to be able to take calls tonight. Downfall, of course, is coming from Russian oil bans as the Feds gear up to attack inflation and everything else that's happening. It's just a crazy situation we're having. It is an absolute crazy situation. As Putin and NATO, it's crazy. No, NATO did not fire on Russia yet, but Putin is preparing for war. They're preparing for war with Russia. Preparing Russians for war with NATO. Recent threats made by Russian officials about retaliation against countries interfering in Ukraine may serve a dual purpose of warning off Western powers while also building favor among Russian citizens should a full conflict with NATO break out. According to experts, Russian President Vladimir Putin said during a Wednesday address that any countries who create a strategic threat to Russia during its war in Ukraine can expect retaliatory strikes that would be lightning fast. Days before, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said in an interview that NATO is essentially going to war with Russia through a proxy and arming that proxy. Various experts who spoke with Real News Live recently said Russian officials have increased the amount of threatening rhetoric as a way of stoking fear in NATO allies. Some experts also feel it's an effort to win over the hearts and minds of the Russian public. All along, Russian domestic propaganda has emphasized that Russia is at war not with Ukraine, but with NATO and the West. Yuri Zhukov, an associate professor at the University of Michigan, told us, behind every Ukrainian military success, in this narrative, there is a NATO officer telling the Ukrainians where, when and whom to shoot. This framing makes it easier to explain military losses to the domestic audience. It also helps lay the political groundwork for a potential full wartime mobilization in Russia, which the regime has so far been hesitant to announce. And yes, it also creates political pressure to strike NATO targets, beginning with supply lines. I think from the perspective of Moscow, they want to build a case that this whole thing was started by NATO and the United States, said Jonathan Katz, the director of democracy initiatives and a senior fellow with the German Marshall Fund of the United States. Katz added that he feels Putin is using the boogeyman of NATO, of the United States, to justify the actions that he is taking to the Russian domestic population. The Financial Times noted that when Putin brought up during his Wednesday speech having the tools we need for retaliatory strikes, the likes of which no one else can claim at this point, he could have been referring to a nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile that Russia had recently tested. Reuters also reported that Lavrov alluded to the danger We urge Russia to stop escalating the rhetoric with respect to nuclear weapons, Zhukov said if Western countries do brush off Putin's threats. The Russian leader may feel pressured into taking more decisive action. There is a general impression in Europe and the U.S. that Russia's threats of retaliation are hollow. He said, I do think it's more than likely that Russia will eventually feel compelled to conduct some kinetic action against NATO countries, if only to make its threats of retaliation appear more credible. On Thursday, Russian missiles struck Kyiv moments after United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres reportedly finished a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the city. That attack, which occurred only 2 days after Guterres met with Putin in Moscow, also was meant as a statement. According to Katz, the strike on Kyiv was about sending messages to anyone that Russia is willing to take steps, including missile strikes, to deter partners of Ukraine from engaging and coming to Ukraine, Katz said. So along with all that going on, I mean, it's crazy. What are we going to do? I mean, Russia is ready for war, and they're not going to back down at any time. I mean, it's a one thing after another event that's happening. Of course, what cause for concern with this is, of course, everything else that's going to happen. This could lead to extreme measures being pushed by both sides and leading to disastrous events happening. I mean, nobody wants to see anything go wrong, but of course, we're watching it happen as we speak. Everybody edging towards the end, with North Korea even moving nuclear warheads and saying they're ready to use them as a first strike weapon on a today's basis. This is an extreme concern for everyone involved. China, of course, not backing down either, moving Air Force or anti-aircraft missiles into the Siberia and everywhere else. It seems like everybody is gearing up for a war, and a war with NATO at that. Big concerns amongst everybody, of course. It's not looking good. I do not know what's going on with my audio output, though. I'm trying to get it fixed as we're speaking, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it fixed. Yeah, the media saying about the war is just crazy. Basically, they're trying to say that it's not going to happen and that we have nothing to worry about. But we're watching this. The GDP of our country is in a negative. We're actually in a negative GDP. And we're not in a pandemic. We're at a negative GDP, which is ridiculous. Of course, net exports are maybe up a little bit, but the biggest problem is personal consumption, expenditures, and private gross domestic profit investments are both down in a negative. Net exports are down 3.2%. Government consumption of expenditures and investments are down 0.5%. That's all going to lead to us, of course, having issues. Yeah, Patrick Lancaster does have good videos on YouTube if you guys want to check him out. I have not been following the People's Convoy much, Tony. I'm sorry about that. I know a lot has been going on. And I would be taking calls, but of course I cannot hear, for some reason, the calls whatsoever. I do not know what's going on. I cannot hear my audio. But as we're watching the GDP, of course, shrink, at the same time, they want to raise interest rates. Raising rates right now, of course, to fight inflation is one thing. But with a falling GDP of a negative 1.4% within the first quarter of this year, it is a scary situation. A chilling situation at that, which could end up being a supply chain issues to customers holding back and goods being only increasing in prices. The inflation, of course, reduces how much people are going to spend. Stagflation is already coming and hitting France and the UK and Germany. Other countries, I mean, literally. The stagflation is happening in France where the inflation is only 1.8% right now. The U.S. is running at a 2.9% projection for 2023. UK is running at a 5.3%. Of course, those are all respectable with growth outlooks. But if the U.S. does not have their 2.3% growth per quarter, we cannot handle the inflation of 5% per year. It'll never be sustainable. And then leading to natural gas and oil exports, this is the huge problem. 61% of Europe's oil and natural gas comes directly from Russia. The rest of it comes from Norway and the Netherlands. So where else are we going to get oil and natural gas for them? They're going to start buying from Saudi Arabia, where we're buying a lot of oil and natural gas, or oil now, to supply our own country. When you're fighting for the same supply, the demand goes up drastically, which increases the price drastically. It's very funny how nobody's talking about what's happening. Yeah. If you are smart, do not leave your grid or your house whatsoever for at least the first 48 hours. Not 24, 48 hours. We have a total grid shutdown situation because you will be prone to people going out and trying to get whatever they can. And that's not where you want to be. But we're facing a real threat here with our economy as the Feds gear up to attack inflation once again, looking at maybe a 50 point gain or increase in the interest rates, which is 0.5%, which is a drastic percentage increase. People may not be saying that, but when you target annual percent mortgage rates, I mean, you're looking at a fixed income for only a $250,000 home. If you put 20% down and you're paying 6%, you're going to be making a monthly payment of $1,200 a month with incomes people can't afford. That's right now, before the interest goes up. If that interest rate goes to 12% or higher on a mortgage rate, you're looking at payments over $2,100 a month. And that is a fee that people cannot afford as we're seeing these increase. It is sad. It is very, very sad looking at the outcome. Of course, foreclosures are already going up. I don't know if you guys heard, but foreclosures are, of course, up 125% or 132% now. It was 125% last week. Now it's 132%. And what that means for the housing market. And it's not what you think it might. Of course, foreclosures are going up. Of course, banks are buying these houses from under these short sales that are happening. It's just crazy. From the previous quarter alone, we're up 39%. 39% in foreclosures. Because people cannot afford to make their payments. So mortgages are becoming seriously delinquent. I mean, they're not foreclosing until more than 90 days past due. It's 70% higher than they were pre-pandemic. The banks are waiting longer to foreclose, and they're still taking the properties because people can't make their payments. That's what happens when inflation is really taking a strong hold. I mean, the month of March alone was a 12% increase. Well, it's a 12% increase is what we're expecting. The strongest for a single month in 20 years. It's crazy. And this is affecting households all around America, as people, of course, are trying to do what they can. It's just sad. It is sad. Keep buying food, water, ammunition. Buy stuff you need. You're right, Billy. Because that's the important thing. That's where it's going to end up. As we're looking, of course, World War III is not far from around the corner. Russia's directly threatening. NATO's pulling back and threatening again. I mean, I don't know if you guys know what happened this morning in Russia. Russia and Russian state television this morning, they announced how they could take out all of Europe with nuclear strategic missiles in under 200 seconds. They displayed it all on state television in Russia. Of course, it wasn't aired internationally. You would have to be access to Russian state television. But that's what they talked about this morning. Under 200 seconds, wiping out all of Europe, or the EU. That is a drastic situation. I don't know if anybody else realized what was said or what was coming, but it is happening. Russia said they could take out all of the EU in under 200 seconds. And that is scary. So before missile detection systems can guarantee that a launch was made, because it takes 3 minutes for those systems to work and say a launch was definitely made, Europe would be gone. 300 seconds. Yeah, we know it was NATO that obviously sunk that ship in the Black Sea. I can't say about the oil depot for sure, but the pilot that was flying that was not a Ukrainian pilot. Russia's not teasing. Yeah, Russia has that small piece of land that they have right next to Ukraine, of course, on the south side, in between Ukraine and Moldova, that has nukes in it. It is crazy. The situation is getting drastic. And when the situation gets drastic and you back, here's what happens. You back a dog in a corner that has rabies. You're going to get bit. When you push, you keep pushing, keep doing something that, of course, Putin knows what's happening. Whether we say we're at war or not, we are at war in World War III, whether we call it or not right now. Because we're supplying all the ammunition, all the strategic, everything that people need to know, how they're supposed to fire, when they're supposed to fire, what they're supposed to attack, how they're supposed to attack it. We're telling Ukraine everything, giving them all the information. They're just physically doing the movement. It's our weapons firing at them. I don't see how people don't realize why Russia is pissed. It is scary because this is going to end up biting us in our own, you know what. It's one thing after another as we're watching what's happening around the country and around the globe, with people looking out and not having the income to do anything about it to make themselves safe. I mean, shelters right now in the in Europe are flying out of the shelves, nuclear shelters or bunkers. People are buying them faster than they can build them right now in Europe. And nobody said anything about it. Nobody wants to talk about that. I've actually called a couple companies there asking them how many bunkers they've sold recently. And they said they sold them all. And of course, they're back ordered for the next few months. Installing bunkers at a rapid rate. Because we have not seen a situation like this since the Cold War. This is a very quick to escalation issue. It could be one day we're fine and everybody's sitting there having a good conversation about what could happen to what is actually happening. I cannot take calls right now. Cannot take calls right now. It's not even letting me. But it's sad. And of course, Biden wants to just keep throwing money there. Biden wants to keep throwing money. They buried the real news behind talks about freaking Johnny Depp, about anything else. China, Russia. There's more than three countries that make weapons of war because there's China, Russia, and then we got Iran, and then we got North Korea. We want to say there's only three countries. If North Korea were to fire more than one nuclear warhead with 10 missiles or with 10 actual bombs attached to it, it would take up our strategic defense. And that's only a 97% chance that that's everything we got thrown at it. That's everything the U.S. has thrown at it. It's crazy. It is crazy what is happening. When you talk about issues happening around the world and you see it happening for yourself, and people are saying, oh no, look at this. I want to show you this puppet over here. As we listen to the disputes between Republicans and Democrats about how our spending is going in the U.S., it's sad. I have a feeling we won't need a false flag before midterm elections, Elaine. I think we might be in full-scale war by then. And that's what I hope is not to come. But that's what it's looking like at this point. Our military readiness is nowhere near where it needs to be. If North Korea today was to attack South Korea, just artillery and using maybe some chemical or biological weapon, nothing great. It would determine our entire military would have to be involved in order to stop North Korea from invading South Korea. And that would be, they would easily destroy the base in Guam. They would probably call our president and say, hey, you want to lose LA or you want to lose South Korea? And that would be the choice our president would have to make. North Korea manufactures their own missiles. China, of course, right now is watching North Korea. I don't know if you guys realize that because nobody's talking about that. China is watching North Korea as they feel threatened, what North Korea is doing. This is a scary situation. They may not be enemies, but of course, the last thing Beijing wants to see is a nuclear missile heading towards them or a nuclear fallout. It's an error that nobody has been ready for. Nobody's ready for what's coming next. I mean, are you truly ready for what's coming next? I don't know. Yeah, our military is good at practicing their pronouns. Yeah. And they have millions. That's what people don't understand is every man, woman, and child, or every man and woman, when they turn 18, have to do mandatory service for 7 years in North Korea. Mandatory service for 7 years. And they wonder why North Korea stays the way it is because it's so ingrained within them from birth till death. And that's all we need is one conflict like that going off schedule. Yeah, we don't have enough oil reserve. We don't. America is not ready for this. They wouldn't just do a cyber warfare though, because cyber warfare would lead to the U.S. of course wanting to retaliate. They want to knock out the ability to retaliate, just like we would want to do if China or North Korea would attack or Russia would attack. We want to knock out the ability to retaliate. not just the ability to stop them from attacking us. And that's the problem. That's wherein lies the problem. Yeah, if there's a draft here in the United States, millions will be refusing to fight. That's the problem. We're not a country that is willing to jump up and ready themselves. U.S. isn't ready for anything by design. We have lost all our true power in the world because we left it up to politicians and the petrodollar to keep us afloat. Now that Saudi Arabia, of course, is mad at us and the petrodollar is losing value, we see our declining of our dollar across world currencies. We're seeing what's happening. It's affecting us all. Not just in little ways, but in big ways. Because, of course, we're facing from inflation to dollars losing its value totally over world global markets, shorter supply lines of everything we need. Why are we trying to start a war? We're not. And it's not fear-mongering. It's telling you the truth. You're right. This is not fear-mongering. Yeah, we're going to beat them down like we never beat down anybody before. That's the thing. It's just ridiculous. Tim, if you're asking why fear-monger, this is not fear-mongering whatsoever. This is a real possibility right now. If you don't do the research, you wouldn't know. Russian state television this morning was showing 200 seconds to wipe out Europe, or the EU, which 200 seconds would be under the 3 minutes and 30 seconds it would be to detect and determine where that missile was heading. So they could even do a retaliatory strike. It takes 3 minutes and 30 seconds for Europe to respond after a missile launch, after they know of the missile launch, to determine where it's going. These missiles would destroy them before that time even became that time. It would be too late. This is an escalatory situation we don't want to be in, but we are. That's the fact. And the problem is the U.S. and NATO and European Union keep pushing weapons into Ukraine, fighting a war on a battlefront that is not our own. We may not be using our soldiers, but this is happening in real life. It's just sad. People don't understand it because people don't want to see what's happening because they don't want to open their eyes. Mainstream media may not be covering it, but we're covering the truth and the facts of what's actually happening out there as it happens. And this happened last night. I'm going to tell you guys because last night at 10:30 when I was getting offline is when this went live last night, or this morning. It would have been this morning, their time, but it was 10:30 last night. And I was going to get in and start talking about it, but I didn't get to watch the whole news story because I was watching Russian state television at the same time when I was going off live. And I seen it start talk about 200 seconds to destroy Europe. And I didn't get to watch it yet or go through, of course, what they were talking about. Now that I have, this is a scary situation. They're making sure their people know that they're ready for a first strike attack in Europe. Europe, of course, relying on our Russian oil right now, is going to be relying on the same oil we rely on from Saudi Arabia in very short amount of time. That 3.5 million barrels a day that we were using from Russia may have been a small percentage of our daily oil usage, but now we're buying it from Saudi Arabia or from anywhere else we can find it. Or, of course, dropping it from our strategic reserve, which is not helping the country whatsoever. And then soon we'll be trying to buy the same oil we've always been buying from Saudi Arabia and competing with the European Union. Even if Russia does not launch an attack, the attack is already happening on the United States. Sanctions aren't always good. They're not always bad, but they are not working. Sanctions of oil, of course, from one of the biggest oil providers in the world is not effective. especially when they provide oil and natural gas to almost all of our allies. Literally, all of our allies. So be prepared and be aware of what's happening. That's far beyond fear mongering. It's about talking about what's happening and not what could happen. Pelosi went to Ukraine for no reason other than to, of course, a photo opportunity with Zelensky. It is ridiculous. Her unannounced trip, of course, on Saturday, becoming the most senior U.S. official to meet with President Zelensky since the war broke out more than 2 months ago. It is ridiculous, though, that she even led a delegation from Congress to Ukraine. And of course, on her trip, she told Ukraine that we will do anything to support Ukraine against Russian aggression. Of course, Pelosi is seen telling Zelensky, "We are visiting you to say thank you for your fight for freedom. We are on a frontier of freedom, that your fight is a fight for everyone. So our commitment is to be with you until the fight is done." Basically, Pelosi becoming now the spokesperson for the United States, saying that we will fight their battle for them forever. It is sad. It is a sad situation when we're watching this come forward. This is not like it's going to go away in a day or two. This is over 2 months now since the war has begun, and food shortages are coming big time. If people aren't prepared for them, they better be. I mean, when you're calling 6,000 or 6 million birds within a week for chickens and everything else because of this bird flu, about 5,000 chickens a week are being called or killed and, of course, disposed of. That means eggs are going to go up exasperately in price. A lot of goods that you get, baked goods and other goods that are pre-prepared, require eggs within them or chicken products. Those are all going to go up drastically. And in part, that means groceries as a whole will go up drastically. Not to mention the shortage of fertilizer we're already facing, and the shortage of oil and wheat that the world is facing at this point. And that is not a question. That is a global concern. Try to buy sunflower oil or special oil. Yeah, they're not updating DEFCON for the people. It is sad. This is sad. Because people don't want to see what's actually happening and open their eyes anymore. They don't realize how the oil embargo is going to trigger a recession in Europe or a possible depression. And that depression is not just going to go in Europe. It's going to happen here. As energy supplies are a global economy issue. So an embargo on Russian oil is going to have an impact on us as long as oil needs to be bought and people need power, and that's the way we're producing it, we're stuck with it. I mean, 90%, 94% of people in the U.S. are worried about inflation right now. 94%. Western artillery is surging, of course, into Ukraine. And they're hoping to reshape the war with Russia with it. Reshaping the war could be a bad thing at this point, as Russia's made it pretty clear of what their concerns are and what they will do in a matter of 200 seconds. And I could see it happening, unfortunately. This is a tragedy unfolding in front of us. It's not about having the money to prepare. It's about having the knowledge to be prepared, how to grow vegetables of your own, how to provide food for your own family. It's sad, but that's the truth of the issues. Am I scared? I got a safe place to go. I have property and that's secure. That's not near anybody else. That's plenty of farmland and animals, plenty of security and water. But what's happening in Russia right now and what's happening around the world does scare me. Yeah, and stocking up doesn't mean buying expensive things. You know, a case of ramen noodles. I mean, I know a lot of people can afford that. A case of ramen noodles is like $2.13. That's 12 meals, which they're 800 calories a piece. So technically, if you take a vitamin with those, you would have enough substance to live. 800 calories a day is plenty enough to survive. And that's, what is that? A couple cents a day. So you buy a couple cases every month and you add those up to your stockpile and you add a couple cases of water. I have a different kind of radio system and I'm working on an app that hopefully I will get out to all you guys before anything could happen. Your cell phones are capable of communicating on much different frequencies than we use right now, but you'd only be able to message back and forth. I've been working on an app, and hopefully it'll be done by then. You guys didn't even realize tonight when my video was froze, it wasn't me actually talking. It's an AI program I've been writing to learn anybody's voice. But that was Friday's price. The problem is a lot of stuff is happening at once. Go to the library, check out a library book, about survival. Read it again, and read it again. Yeah, rice and beans go a long, long way. And you don't have to buy expensive vitamins. That's something that if you're ever in a survival situation, you want to be taking a good multivitamin or something that's going to give you all the vitamins and nutrients your body needs, besides, of course, calories and carbohydrates and proteins. So get a good multivitamin or a cheap one. It doesn't matter. Just get enough to supply yourself with them for the initial shock. Because that's when you're not going to be wanting to go out for the first few months. You're going to want to go out as limited as possible, because that's when the most people are going to be the most aggressive. It's just be prepared for that couple months. Cup of soups are expensive. It's just sad. Yeah. Go to YouTube and watch prepper videos. There's a lot of cheap ways to do this. I'm growing lettuce in my house, and I meant to show you guys tonight. I do not know why I didn't have everything ready for this. But I have 32 plants. What? No, 36 plants, sorry. 36 heads of lettuce growing right now. And it cost me less than $50 for the entire setup. It grows 32 heads of lettuce at a time, or 32 plants of any kind, of course, that are not root vegetables. 32 at a time, hydroponically. That means no soil, minimal fertilizer, using water and minimal power. Very minimal power. Supplying yourself with your own vegetables within your own home without going outside. Yeah, nuts are a very good thing to have on any stock or any kind of survival thing you're going to get is nuts, proteins with fats. So your peanuts are cheap and expensive. So get bulk peanuts or bulk peanut butter. That's what I'm saying though. Like even this little setup that I have, literally it takes up less than, I would say less than 6 square feet. 36 heads of lettuce. It takes 2 months or 60 days to grow 36 heads or 36 plants. But I'm saying not even having to go outside, I would have a constant fresh vegetable within my own home. Yeah, I have panic disorder with agoraphobia and PTSD, Jeff, so I know exactly what you're talking about. You don't want to leave the house. You don't even want to go outside to plant vegetables. This is a great way to do it. I'm going to put the plans and everything, pictures up online. I'll probably talk about it tomorrow night of what I have going here. That was simple, cheap, and easy, and something anybody can do. I mean, I have over 1,500 seeds that I purchased that are mixed lettuce, anyways, for like $6 off a reputable supplier that are in foil envelopes separated into small bunches, less than 100 seeds per packet. Yeah. Happy hermit. Just because you don't go out doesn't mean you don't have a life. That's what I'm always telling people. God bless you guys. I'll be back tomorrow night, of course, talk about more. I'm going to get those photos up. And of course, links to the items that I had to build my setup that I have to grow hydroponically within my home, within the temperature of my home. So, and you could operate it off a little 5-volt solar panel that costs, if you want to spend the money for that, like a battery backup pack that you would get from for your phone. You could operate it off one of those within the window at all times, and actually have UV lights running 24/7 and grow lettuce in under 30 days. So very easy. Need to stay longer. I've been on 48 minutes. I mean, if I could take calls tonight, I would definitely stay on longer. I was hoping my calls would work tonight. I had it set up earlier and it was working fine. But I can't even hear the phone ring right now. But I love to talk to you guys. I love to be here for you guys and be there to tell you guys what's actually happening. Good, bad, or ugly. You need to know. You have the right to know. As we are free Americans, we have the right to be knowledgeable about what's happening and what could happen in the near future. God bless you. God bless America. And you guys have a wonderful night.